The Silent Hotel. The Elisa Lam Mystery at the Cecil Hotel. Before we step inside, lock your doors, keep the lights low, and subscribe. Because once you see what's in this hallway, you won't sleep easy again. A metal box, an old elevator, late at night. The camera stares through a grainy lens at a narrow corridor in downtown Los Angeles. A young woman darts in and out of frame, presses a row of buttons with frantic fingers, then hides against the wall as if someone or something is in the hall. The doors refuse to close. She peeks out again, steps back, and lifts her hands in slow, uncertain shapes, like she's talking to the air or negotiating with a figure we can't see. And then, just as quickly as she appeared, she's gone. The car sits open for long seconds, empty, humming, as if waiting for an answer that never comes. Her name is Elisa Lam, 21, Canadian, a student who had come to California alone for the first time. She wrote hopeful notes to herself, posted small joys from her trip, and checked into a building that locals knew by whisper. The Cecil Hotel. It was cheap. It was central. It carried a history that didn't announce itself at the front desk. Stories of suicides, violent episodes, people who arrived under one name and left under another. But to a traveler on a budget, it was just a room with a door and a working lock. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Elisa explored the city, visited bookstores, mapped her days. Then her calls to family slowed. A clerk said she looked confused one afternoon. Another guest remembered a restless presence in the hall. It was the kind of worry you can shrug off when the sun is up, and the kind that grows teeth when night returns. When she didn't check out, the hotel called police. Detectives learned she had no car, no new charges on her card, no movement that made sense. Some missing person cases fade quietly. This one didn't. Faced with a city of locked rooms and unhelpful corridors, investigators chose a different path. They prepared a single clip from that elevator camera, the last clear moments anyone could place Elisa Lam, and set a time to release it to the public. Tomorrow, the world would see what the hallway saw. The next morning, Los Angeles police uploaded the 2-minute clip to their official YouTube page, hoping someone might recognize the girl in the elevator. Within hours, the views exploded. People all over the world hit replay again and again, trying to understand what they were seeing. Every motion of Elisa's hands was slowed down, analyzed, speculated upon. Was she hiding from someone? Talking to someone invisible? The clip felt wrong in a way no one could quite name. Too quiet. Too empty. Too slow. For online viewers, the Cecil Hotel became a digital haunted house. Bloggers and Reddit users began digging into its past, uncovering details that made the story even darker. Built in 1927, it had once been elegant, but decades of crime and tragedy had turned it infamous. The Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, had lived there in the 1980s. Suicides, disappearances, overdoses. The list stretched longer than the hotel's guest records. And now, a new mystery had joined the ledger. Meanwhile, detectives combed through every floor. They searched her belongings, questioned staff, and even brought scent dogs up and down the hallways. The trail led to the roof, but the doors there were locked, and only staff had keys. The alarms that should have sounded hadn't. Still, one officer paused by the access ladder leading up to the hotel's 4 giant water tanks. It seemed impossible anyone could climb that far unnoticed. As the days dragged on, fear turned to obsession. Tourists canceled their bookings. Online sleuths created entire timelines of her last moments. Each theory grew stranger than the last. A stalker, a breakdown, even something supernatural linked to the hotel's cursed history. But behind the noise, her family waited in silence back in Vancouver, hoping for something as simple as a phone call. Then, nearly 3 weeks after she vanished, a complaint came in from the 13th floor. The water pressure had dropped again. Guests said the tap smelled strange. The color looked off. A maintenance worker took his tools, climbed the ladder to the roof, and pried open one of the heavy metal hatches. What he saw inside froze him in place. And in that single, silent moment, the mystery of the elevator turned into something far more terrifying. The worker stared into the dark water, unable to move. Floating just beneath the surface was the shape of a young woman, her dark hair fanning out like a shadow. It was Elisa Lam. After 19 days of searching every hallway and floor, she had been above them all along, inside one of the 4 massive water tanks that fed the entire hotel. The sight alone sent him running for help, his voice breaking as he called it in. Police and fire crews climbed to the roof with ropes, harnesses, and ladders. They drained the tank, carefully removing Elisa's body to avoid disturbing what little evidence might remain. The questions began instantly. How did she get there? The rooftop door was locked and alarmed. The tank itself was heavy, with a metal lid that would be difficult to lift from the inside. No sign of struggle. No cuts or bruises. It was as if she had simply vanished from the elevator and reappeared in the most unreachable place imaginable. Detectives treated the scene like a puzzle. They checked the ladders, the roof cameras, the locks. The autopsy revealed no drugs, no signs of assault. The official report called it an accidental drowning. But even investigators admitted they couldn't explain how she reached the tank alone. Her bipolar disorder was mentioned as a possible factor, but that only added more confusion than clarity. Every answer raised another question. Outside, the world couldn't let go of the story. Guests realized they had been drinking, showering, and brushing their teeth with the same water from that tank. The media frenzy exploded. Online detectives mapped every inch of the hotel. Conspiracy theories multiplied. Was she chased? Was someone hiding in the hotel? Or was there something about the Cecil itself that pulled people toward tragedy? Hotel management drained the entire system and sealed off the roof. But even that couldn't silence the unease. Travelers canceled their stays, staff quit, and the hotel's name became synonymous with fear. Still, one haunting truth lingered. Elisa Lam had entered that elevator alone, and no one could explain how her story ended in the rooftop tank. And for every guest who still checks in, the silence of that hallway feels heavier than ever. As if the elevator doors remember exactly what happened. After Elisa's death, the Cecil Hotel became a worldwide obsession. True crime reporters, ghost hunters, skeptics, and self-styled internet detectives all pored over every floor plan and police photo. The building itself almost seemed to feed on the attention. Beneath its new paint and renovated lobby, the same cracked walls and echoing pipes remained. Even when the hotel tried to rebrand under a new name, people still whispered Cecil, like a curse. Investigators reviewed months of security footage, looking for anyone following Elisa. They found none. Every corridor showed her alone. No evidence of an intruder, no forced entry, no second figure in that hallway. Her room key was untouched, her belongings neatly folded, her diary lying open on the desk. The pages were filled with restless energy, dreams, fears, and sudden bursts of hope. Nothing in her words hinted at what would come. When the coroner's report was released, it deepened the unease instead of ending it. Accidental drowning, it read, but internet sleuths refused to believe it. They found coincidences everywhere. An old movie whose plot mirrored the case, a tuberculosis outbreak near the hotel using a test name similar to hers, even maps that aligned in eerie ways. None of it proved anything, yet the coincidences spread faster than the truth. The internet wanted an explanation, and the absence of one was too terrifying to accept. Meanwhile, the hotel's dark record kept growing. Decades before Elisa arrived, serial killers and desperate souls had walked those same halls. Police files showed room after room marked by death. Locals called it a magnet for tragedy, and even new tenants claimed the air felt wrong. Thick, heavy, like someone watching from behind the wallpaper. Years later, Netflix and news outlets would revisit the case, showing how easily the human mind bends mystery into myth. Still, no knee could erase the images. The elevator doors that wouldn't close, the girl looking out into an invisible hallway, and the silent tank on the roof. As the cameras faded and investigators moved on, the Cecil stood unchanged, tall and indifferent, its windows glowing faintly over Skid Row. And when the wind passed through the upper floors, some swore they could still hear the faint hum of an elevator refusing to move. Years have passed since that February night, yet the Cecil Hotel still breathes like a living relic, a monument of unanswered questions. The building has changed names, its walls repainted, its sign replaced, but no renovation can erase what happened on its rooftop. Tourists still drive by just to glance up, searching for the water tanks that once hid a secret the city could not explain. For investigators, Elisa Lam's case remains officially closed. Accidental drowning. But for millions who watch the elevator footage, that explanation feels too neat. They remember her strange movements, the way she hid, the door that refused to close, the sudden vanishing. Some think she was followed. Others believe her mind fractured under pressure. None can prove it. What's left is the silence, the unbearable stillness between frames, the feeling that something just beyond the camera's view was watching her too. Elisa's story changed how the world looks at loneliness, at mental health, and at places that hold memories of pain. Her parents still visit her grave in Vancouver. Her old Tumblr blog, filled with bright thoughts and small hopes, remains frozen in time, like an unfinished conversation. Each post feels like an echo, soft and human, reminding everyone that behind the mystery was a real person who simply wanted to see the world. The Cecil Hotel reopened years later as Stay on Main, a fresh start for a building that refuses to rest. Guests still speak of uneasy nights, of flickering lights and faint footsteps above the ceiling. Maybe it's imagination. Maybe it's the weight of history pressing through the walls. Because when a place collects enough sorrow, sometimes it never gives it back. To this day, no one knows how Elisa Lam reached that roof, how the hatch closed, or why the elevator seemed to wait for her return. The truth sits somewhere between logic and fear, in that space where the human mind fills the dark with its own reflections. And if this story still lingers in your thoughts tonight, then you understand why the Cecil Hotel is called the Silent Hotel. If it chilled you to the bone, hit subscribe before it calls the next guest.